Okay, I know I'm a little early. Here's my sister, Sandra. She's my technical support today.
Reading your comments.
So when you sign on, be sure and sign on and say that you're here so that we know you're here. And Andrea will read your comments to me and share your questions and comments as we go along. And I know I'm early, so I'm just going to kind of stare at the camera for a while and wait for people to come on. But I'm so glad you're here. This is really exciting. This is really exciting for me to actually get this book into the world. 2 years in the making, actually, almost 2 years, but I'll tell you more about that as we go along. But I see no one is signed on yet, so that's okay. I don't know about this bantering for 2 minutes, Andrea.
Well, I love the color that you chose for your book.
Yeah, I wanted
Is there any, I don't know, any reasoning for that color? Just because it really drew me.
When I set up my website, I wanted to evoke waves in the ocean because of the title, Surfing the Waves of Alzheimer's. So the photograph that I was drawn to for my website was a dark, dark blue, and then the alternate color was a life. Hi, David. Thank you for coming on. And KC, watching from Montgomery. This is awesome. Well, yeah, Andrea, my sister, is here with me. She's my technical support, and she was asking me about the cover and how I chose the cover. And there's Marion. Thank you.
And there's Anna.
And Anna?
Can you see all this?
No, I don't see Anna. Maybe you're a little bit quicker.
Anna is watching.
Okay. And Laurie. Gosh, look at all you guys coming in. Well, let me just tell you a little bit. I'll tell you a little bit more about the cover. It's a photograph that my daughter took when Harvey was in a memory care unit, probably about 7-8 years into his disease. So it, to me, tells the story. I mean, it's very personal. I like how he is looking at the camera, but yet you know something's not quite right. So I'm gonna stop and say hello to my daughter, Elena, and Brett, what day? And I'm missing people, and there's Kim. This is awesome.
They're showing up.
They are showing up, and there's my mama, and Kim, and Becky. I'm not going to be able to keep up and say all your names. There's Sally. This is awesome.
So some people are watching but not commenting.
Okay.
So that evidently you don't
I can only see comments.
You're seeing comments.
This is awesome. This is great. And Mark, thank you, Mark, for joining in. I do see that. Thank you, Sally. Congratulations to me. Well, I was talking a little bit about the cover. It felt very personal. It felt like it told a story or tells a story. I like the fact that Harvey's looking in the camera, but you can tell something's not right, but he looks okay, you know. And there's Sandy and. Anyway, and I chose this color, this tealish color, to evoke the waves of the ocean. And you can see there's a little texture, wave texture, printed, superimposed here and on the bottom too. You can see it better on a live copy. So here's actually what the book looks like. It's a slim volume. It's about 150 pages. Very readable, I think. Marion asked if the book is going to be at a store. I know that Little Professor in Homewood has ordered 5 copies, but you can order it from any store and they will get it for you. An independent bookstore or one of the bigger bookstores will order any book you want. Hi, Dean. Good to see you here. Well, I think I'll just go ahead. I know people will probably come in, but what I'd want to introduce myself first. I'm Renee Harmon, Renee Brown Harmon. And this book, Surfing the Waves of Alzheimer's, is a teaching memoir. And I chose the term teaching memoir because I am combining elements of memoir and a how-to book. So I found myself unable just to tell the story. I guess because I'm a physician, I feel like part of my job has been to tell people about illness and wellness. So the way the book is structured, it is structured around teaching points, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as I go. But just for background, so that we're all on the same page, Harvey, my husband, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 2010 at the age of 50. He was ill with it for 8 years and passed away about 2 years ago. And it took me about 2 years to get this book into the world. And that's kind of where we are, and here it is. It's really exciting. So like I said, the book is memoir. Each chapter is titled one of the caregiving principles that I've learned, and then I tell a story that illustrates that principle. For example, I'll read for you in a little bit. One chapter is titled, "He's not giving you a hard time, he's having a hard time." And then I tell a story that illustrates that, and at the end of each chapter, I discuss that principle in a little bit more detail. And then I also offer readers some practices that they can use to get better balance in their lives. Better balance in your life as a caregiver is my main impetus. My life and Harvey's life before Alzheimer's, I felt was perfectly balanced. Not only were we married since 1985, we were in practice together. We created Double Oak Family Medicine in 1992, and we worked together. We didn't work together. You can't actually see patients together, but he would work one day a week. I would work the next day when it was a brand new practice, because we didn't have that many patients. So we would alternate days, and whoever was not at the practice was home with the babies. This all came about at the same time. New practice, new family. And then as the children grew, the practice grew, so that by the time they were in elementary school, one of us would leave in time for carpool, pick up our daughters, and take them to wherever they needed to go. And the goal was for that to continue until the girls were old enough to drive themselves. But that never happened because Harvey was forced to retire because of his illness. I'm going to stop right here and say hello to Sharonda and Tanya. And who else did I miss, Andrea? Hey, Sharonda. Leslie, I saw her name scroll up. And Marion.
Lisa
Hi.
Block,
Lisa. And Robert Burrell and Carl. Look at all you fine
Sandy
people.
Thurman.
Sandy, I meant to say hi to Sandy. Anyway, this feels kind of weird but I want to acknowledge that you're here and supporting me. That means so much to me. Really, I don't think I could have done this without the support of my family and my friends and my church and my patients, for sure. So that's really, I was telling you kind of how the book is structured around these principles of caregiving that I picked up, and I illustrate them with stories. And I also offer a discussion about the principle and offer some practices that you may do. Because I found that caregiving in the midst of my very busy life anyway was just very difficult to maintain my balance. And I found this quote that I include at the very beginning of the book from Jon Kabat-Zinn, a meditation and wellness guru. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And I certainly tried to learn how to surf because the waves were going to keep coming, and they did keep coming. And I knew I had to keep my balance the best way I could and still provide care for my husband, care for my family, care for my patients, all at the same time. And sometimes you do feel like you're just surfing and just doing the best you can without getting swamped. And I'm not going to say I never felt swamped. I certainly felt overwhelmed and swamped at times, but there were usually friends and family that were around who could help pull me back on my surfboard and help me keep afloat and not swamp. One of the things that helped me stay afloat was journaling, and I really think that's where this book was born, was in journaling. I've always enjoyed writing, and I've written off and on most of my life. I was on the literary magazine in high school all 4 years, and I was editor my senior year. And then since then, I have enjoyed writing, but intermittently. I've enjoyed journaling intermittently. But when Harvey became ill, I really felt this need to journal because I had all these emotions that didn't have an outlet. You know, I had kind of lost my soulmate with Harvey. I couldn't talk to him about my grief and anger and all that I was going through. I didn't feel like it was fair to him to put that on him when he was already dealing with that. So I took to my journal and I journaled my emotional state, what was going on, but I also journaled what was happening with Harvey on a weekly, monthly basis. And that gave me the timeline and the structure to write this book. Not that I had any inclination that I was going to write a book, but when I decided to, I had 6 full journals full of information, full of our stories. But let me tell you kind of really how the book came to be. In February 2018, my friend, an old friend from college, just emailed me out of the blue that she was sponsoring I'm blanking on the name of this. Hang on, I'm gonna check my notes. A vision board. And I went to Daryl Mason's vision board session and created this vision board. And when we were discussing afterwards, I just threw out this comment. I just said, I think I want to write a book. And she glommed onto that and contacted me a couple of weeks later and said she had another friend, a photographer, Sonia, and that would it be a good idea if the 3 of us met weekly as a mastermind group. We renamed ourselves the Launching Pad to support each other in our creative endeavors. So I agreed, and we have met weekly since then. Well, when we first started meeting, it wasn't with the idea of me writing a book. Right? I had written a poem for my daughter and her new husband on their wedding. So my first project was to get that poem really good, really tight, and add some things to it. And I worked on it really hard with Daryl and Sonia's support, and eventually read it at a poetry slam. Really enjoyed that. After that, I thought I would like to tell part of Harvey's and mine's story. And we have a venue here in Birmingham called ARC Stories, which is similar to Moth Stories, if you're familiar with that on NPR. So I emailed ARC Stories and said I was interested in telling my story, and they were interested in having me. So I wrote out my story and shared it on stage without notes. That's the caveat there. And after that, I would like to really write this, since it wasn't, that ARC Story was a storytelling event, not a written event. So I actually rewrote the story and edited it down and submitted it to the Journal of the American Medical Association, and they published it in JAMA Neurology. And it's the story, and you'll read it in the book, but it's the story of when I knew something was wrong with Harvey's cognition, and the 9 months that it took to get the diagnosis, and just the trauma of what it did to us and our practice and our family in those 9 months, trying to figure out what was going on and what needed to happen. So when my personal essay was published in JAMA Neurology, that gave me the impetus to say, all right, I can write. I will write. And about the same time, I was asked to give a talk at Alzheimer's of Central Alabama has a yearly meeting called the year in, never mind, I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, I was asked to give a speech, a talk, with the instructions is to talk for 45 minutes about Alzheimer's disease. And that was kind of overwhelming and not very concrete direction. So as I was pulling my thoughts together, this is when I had the idea about these different principles of caregiving. And I organized my talk that way and could illustrate these principles of caregiving along the way. And I realized I had a whole lot more material than 45 minutes. And this might be the structure for a book. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. So I started working on the book with the idea that I'm going to write a memoir. And I didn't know it was going to be a teaching memoir until I started writing it. I started writing right after Harvey passed away. He passed away at the end of October 2018, and I don't know, I guess I needed another project or needed something to occupy my time, but I started writing the book pretty immediately. And because I had the journal, it flowed really well and very easily, except for the last 2 years. And that was just difficult to write emotionally. And I kind of balked on that and took my time because I needed to digest that information. But it took me from November until March to write it. And in that time period, I was also introduced to a book called The Book You Were Born to Write by Kelly Notaras. And she is an editor with 20 years experience in the literary world. And she had just published the book, and it was chock full of information about how to get a book into the world. And I learned so much from her that I signed up to do a seminar with her in upstate New York in Kripalu. Took my laptop with me and worked on my book there and bounced ideas off the other participants there, off Kelly there. And that was also very reassuring and very compelling, kept me going. And then I used Kelly's editorial know-how and contacted her group and had the first person to read my manuscript who did not know my story. And this editor, Ben, read the book and told me that it was worth putting out. That was my main question. Is this worth doing anything? And he gave me positive feedback, and I decided to push on through. So from there, it was just a matter of a number of editorial passes, I tried to find a literary agent. That didn't pan out, and so I decided to self-publish, and that was a whole experience into itself. And so I've been on this path with self-publishing since February. So that's kind of the story of how the book came into being. And I'm still in contact with some of the participants at Kripalu, and some of them are watching today, Sally, which is awesome. I think now I'd like to read a bit from the book. So I've chosen the chapter entitled, "He's Not Giving You a Hard Time, He's Having a Hard Time." And the story that I'm going to read to you takes place about 1.5 years after Harvey was officially diagnosed. His mother had just been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and his father had just been diagnosed with another form of dementia that was never clearly delineated. So that's just the background. So his mother had been diagnosed, and she had been falling a lot, was hospitalized, and then was transferred to a rehab facility to see if she could gain her strength in her legs to walk again. So that's where this story picks up. 3 days into Lois's rehabilitation hospital stay, I got a text from Dennis, that's Harvey's brother. They are transferring me to UAB. I have a 4-centimeter mass on the left side of my brain near the skull. What the heck is wrong with this family's brains? I immediately called him back, but his secretary answered because she was the one who had actually sent me the text. She told me that Dennis had been unable to communicate effectively all day. Incorrect words kept popping up. He repeated the same nonsense over and over as he tried to express what he wanted to say. A friend had convinced him to go to the emergency room, and scans there found the mass. He was transferred from that hospital in Mississippi to our large teaching hospital in Birmingham, University of Alabama in Birmingham, or UAB, the same hospital where Harvey and Lois's neurologist was based. It was a glioblastoma and needed to be excised. He and his wife have a friend in Chicago who recommended a neurosurgeon there at Rush University Medical Center, so all of his scans were sent there in preparation for surgery. While Dennis was back home in Mississippi preparing for surgery, still having language difficulties, I got a frantic text from Dennis's wife, Jane. Rehab hospital is releasing Lois tomorrow. Social worker says that Bill and Harvey told her that everything was arranged for her to go home. I called Jane and got a more detailed explanation about what had happened. The caseworker had gotten the order from the physician that Lois, that's Harvey's mother, was to be discharged the next day, and asked Bill, that's Harvey's father, and the son that was with him if arrangements had been made for her care at home. They answered yes. Jane asked, "Are you saying that the son who has dementia just gave you his okay?" "He has dementia?" asked the social worker. "He said he was a doctor and assured me everything was in place for Mrs. Harmon's discharge." "Did you read the chart first? That son has dementia, and so does Mr. Harmon. You have to talk to the other son, Dennis. He's the only one who handles their affairs." So Jane and Dennis, from their Mississippi home, arranged for Lois to be transferred to a nursing home in a bedroom community about an hour away from Birmingham. Lois's sister, who was also in declining health, was living there, and Dennis thought that even though she would be further from Bill, it would be nice for Lois to be with her sister. She would be safely ensconced there, being taken care of by professionals, while Dennis had brain surgery in Chicago, recovered, and then would be able to make long-term plans for both of his parents. Bill was at home with a caregiver, and Harvey would continue to visit Bill each afternoon. I was in charge of Bill's medications, setting up his pill container each week. Dennis's surgery went well. He was kept awake during surgery talking to a speech pathologist while the 4-centimeter malignant glioblastoma was excised. They kept up a running dialogue so that the neurosurgeon would know if significant language difficulties arose, and surgery would then stop. Dennis retained most of his verbal skills after surgery and continued to improve while he recovered in Chicago. He had gaps in his vocabulary, though, making conversation interesting as he would circle around the word he wanted until he or the person he was talking with was able to retrieve it. So squirrel became the small woodland animal with nuts, and bed became the place you lie down with pillows. He still has some of the same language issues today, but has been able to continue his law practice. Texting is how he and I usually communicate, and it can be entertaining and amusing, sometimes confusing and frustrating. With everyone stable in Chicago, the nursing home, and Birmingham, I made plans for a quick beach trip over the Labor Day weekend. Bill's caregiver was also taking a mini vacation, so I planned for Harvey to visit with his father each of those days that we were gone. I got a text from Dennis my first day at the beach. "Dad tried to get Mom out of place she is in." "What happened?" Dad drove to Mom Place with old people to get her out. By himself? Did he succeed? Alone. The people not let him. Friend got him. So Bill drove to the nursing home to try to bring Lois home, but the staff wouldn't let him do it? What do you mean that a friend got him? They put him in room. Friend drove to him and got him back. I don't understand. Friend Ron went to the place, drove Dad home. Okay, your friend Ron drove to the nursing home, got Bill, and drove him home. Is that right? What do you mean by put him in a room? Yes, nursing home people put Dad in room and locked. They locked him in a room until your friend came to get him? What happens to Bill's car now? Yes, I don't care. To this day, I'm still not completely clear what happened. What kind of room did the nursing home staff lock Bill into? Is that even legal? At least there was no mention in these texts that Harvey was involved in the shenanigans, so I called home to check on him and see what he knew. Maybe he could further flesh out this story. He knew nothing of his father's attempt to spring his mother from the nursing home or how Bill got home. I was no closer to understanding what actually happened. But at least Harvey wasn't involved until the next day. I'm going to leave it there. But at the end of the chapter, then I discuss this practice. He's not giving you a hard time, he's having a hard time. And I talk about trying to put yourself into the mind of the person that is affected by dementia. And I offer some practices, some ways to do that. One is to flip the script and write the story from that person's point of view. So I do that as an example. I tell the story again, just very shortly, from Harvey's point of view. I also have a practice where you can sit in your loved one's favorite chair, close your eyes, and imagine 24 hours in the shoes of the person affected with Alzheimer's. So other chapters are, let's see, put on your own oxygen mask first. It's better to be kind than correct. And it covers the entire 8 years, including Harvey's passing. So that's it about the book. I am more than happy to answer any questions. If you have any questions about me or Harvey or the book, or I am more than happy to answer that. The book is available today on Amazon. You can also order it from your local bookstore. I like supporting independent bookstores. I'm also planning a book signing on October the 3rd. That's a Saturday. I'll have books there that you could purchase and I can sign, or you can bring a book that you've already purchased and I'd be happy to sign it. It'll be outdoors and we'll ask everyone to be masked and socially distanced. So I really, again, appreciate everyone's support through the 8 years of Harvey's illness and through the 2 years of me getting this book out into the world. I hope I haven't been too pushy or out there about the book, but I appreciate your support. And as you read, I really would covet your reviews on Amazon or Goodreads. I really think that helps get the word out there, the more reviews there are. And that's about it. So
One question.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Burr is asking where outdoors.
So
I'm assuming that's.
we're asking where the book signing's going to be. So I'm planning on having it at Lancaster Park. That is the area behind Thomas Waters State Farm office on Highway 31 in Homewood. So it's this area behind his office that is shaded with tables spread out. So that will, and I'll get more information on my website.
And Sally wants to know what's.
So my book signing will be here in Birmingham, Sally. So I do want to, if you would like a signed copy and you're not going to be able to come to the book signing in Birmingham, you can tell me about that in an email. If you'll email me through my website, when my supply comes in, and I think that's going to be the end of September, I will sign a copy and mail it to you, and we'll figure out the details of that if that's what you want to do. So that's another option if you are not in Birmingham or can't make the book signing event. I'd be happy to do that and mail you a signed copy if that's what you want to do. Look at this. We've got 40 people. This is awesome.
Feeling the love.
So Sally in Connecticut, you might win the award for furthest participant today.
Somebody from Virginia.
Virginia.
Cynthia Crawford from the Arthritis Foundation.
Hi, Cynthia. Thank you for tuning in.
And we've got Denny Whitehurst in Columbus,
And
Georgia.
Denny's in Georgia, and I have family in Georgia that are
Yes.
watching. So Marion is asking how much the book is. So it comes in two forms. We've got paperback, like this, and this is $15.99, and an ebook is $5.99. One of them's 99, one of them's 95. I can't remember which is which, but $15.99 for the paperback book. And Katie G is in Tennessee. So this is just a I was going to say international. I guess we haven't gotten to international, Andrea, have we?
No. Got Chelsea. Somebody's in Chelsea.
Robert is thanking me for writing the book. I think that probably, I think I've read this somewhere, that everyone in America knows someone with Alzheimer's or dementia. It is that widespread, and I have terrible memory for numbers, but it is that widespread, and it is a growing public health problem. As the baby boomers age, it's going to be very, very difficult. So I'm getting other people coming in from Huntsville, and I'm missing them, Andrea. They're scrolling so fast on my screen.
Well, yes, from Huntsville, Atlanta, Georgia.
And Atlanta, yeah, Lisa.
Block. Robert Burr has another question. Are they
Libraries?
will they be in the
You know what?
library?
I don't know about
That's
libraries.
something to
That's up
investigate.
to the librarians. Katie is a librarian, and Katie G knows about libraries. Maybe she can tell us what that process is. I have no idea what that process is.
Kim Adams in Mississippi.
Oh, Kim, good to see you. Well, good to see your words scrolling on my screen. Oh, my goodness. Yes, and people are responding about how they're connected to Alzheimer's. And, Alzheimer's is an umbrella term. No, dementia is the umbrella term for cognitive problems, and Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia. That's information that needs to spread out there too. Let's see. There's Anne. Great. Tom, my goodness, all these people
Coming out of the woodwork.
coming out of the woodwork. So, anybody have any other questions? I'm about through with my content. So,
Keep the comments. Keep the questions.
yeah, keep the comments going. Appreciate it.
We'll answer them eventually.
All right, somebody's answering. I can't read that, Andrew. Can you read something about a library?
Robert, you might need to clarify. It says, do I need to good book for library?
Yeah, but somebody's responded after that about.
The more reviews you get, the more likely the library will learn about it and order it.
Another reason to write a review.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah, is
that
this
was
Katie?
under Katie G.
Katie G talking about libraries. Thank you, Katie.
And here's another one, Marie Blair, as a librarian. It's a
Mhm,
question.
yes.
They're reading a review and typically is subject to the discretion of each library, and she can help.
It's great. So yes, read the book, write a review, talk about it on social media if that's your thing. I appreciate it. So
Share it with your Sunday school class.
share it with your Sunday school class. I tell you, my faith community at church, First Church, was phenomenal, and that church figures prominently throughout the book all the ways individuals and collectively how the church helped our family kind of survive this onslaught. All right, I think I'm ready to hang it up, unless somebody has a question. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. It's my first time to do this. I'm just kind of talking into the camera. So anyway, it was fun. I appreciate the support you've given me, and thank you to Andrea, my sister, my technical support today. And I will see you all later. Bye-bye.